Last year, the Cincinnati Bearcats did what many thought would never happen. They made the college football playoff. Can they do it again? Or are there other non-Power 5 teams that have a legit shot to make the college football playoff in 2022? Let's talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Coos, and welcome in to another edition of Coos' Corner. So come on in, make yourself at home, and let me pour you out a shot of top-shelf college football content. If that kind of content is for you, please hit that red subscribe button, hit the red notification bell to be notified of future videos. Please give me the thumbs up button underneath the video if you like this content. And please share this with all of your college sports loving friends. Now let's get on with the show. I got to thinking, is there any non-Power 5 team that actually has a legit chance to make the playoffs in 2022? And I found 4 teams that I think have the best chance to do so. I'm going to go through those 4 teams, give you a little bit about them, and tell you whether or not I think they can make the college football playoff. Let's start out with last year's CFP entry, the Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati finished 13-1 in 2021 with their only loss coming in the college football playoff to the Alabama Crimson Tide, the eventual national runner-up. Cincinnati loses a lot of guys off last year's team, though. They lose several talented defensive players. A lot of them are probably going to play at the next level, especially 2 star defensive backs in Ahmad Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant. They also lost Myjai Sanders and linebacker Darian Beavers off the defensive side, among several other guys. Now, on the offensive side, they also lost a lot of weapons. They lost their star quarterback, Desmond Ridder, who's probably also going to play in the NFL. Wide receiver Alec Pierce is gone, and also running back Jerome Ford, who was a 1,000-yard rusher for the Bearcats in 2021. Now, they still have Luke Fickell roaming the sidelines, so they're still going to be a competitive football team and a good football team. And they do have talent. They do have talent that backs up those guys that are leaving, and a lot of those guys got snaps last year, and a lot of them looked good when they had those snaps. However, it's my opinion that you just don't replace that kind of production. Cincinnati was one of the best teams in the country for 2 straight years. They won the American Conference 2 straight years, and I just do not see how you replace that kind of experience, not regress at least a little bit. I still think Cincinnati will be good. I still think they have a legit chance to win the American Conference, but I just don't see them being good enough to make the college football playoff. And when you look at their schedule, now their schedule lines up pretty good for them to get in. They will have to go undefeated to get in, because their strength of schedule is not very good. But for them to go undefeated, they're going to have to go beat Arkansas at Arkansas. That's their opening game of the season and their biggest test. I personally don't think they beat Arkansas. I think Arkansas wins that game because Arkansas is also a very good team, and they're an SEC team. They're probably going to be more talented, and I just don't see the Bearcats pulling that one off, especially since it's on the road. They play Indiana again. This time it'll be at home, though. But I think Cincinnati can win that game. And then they also have a conference game at home against UCF. I think they win that one as well, but it won't be an easy one. So, Cincinnati potentially has 3 losses on their schedule right now. Definitely one loss. To me, 1 loss and they're out because their strength of schedule is just not that good. Now let's look at the Houston Cougars. Many people are predicting the Houston Cougars to actually win the American this year instead of Cincinnati. Matter of fact, ESPN has them in their way too early rankings at number 13 for the upcoming season. Houston finished 12-2 last season with a bowl win over Florida. Their 2 losses came to Texas Tech in the first game of the season, and then they dropped the American Conference Championship game to Cincinnati. Houston did lose a star defensive back and a star kick returner in Marcus Jones, who's going to be going to the NFL. They lost 3 starting offensive linemen who were seniors off the team to graduation. However, that was the weakest part of their team last year. Houston was one of the worst teams in the country in giving up sacks last year. I think they finished 105th nationally. So their offensive line was not very good. They struggled in that American Conference game. They struggled to run the ball against Cincinnati. So I just don't see that being that big of a loss. And the reason I say that, their 2 best offensive linemen were sophomores, and those guys will be back. I still think their offensive line will. I still don't think their offensive line will be real good, but they were able to overcome that last year. I think they do that again because their skill position players are mostly back. Quarterback Clayton Tune, who threw for 3,500 yards last year, is back. Sophomore running back Alton McCaskill will be back. He ran for 961 yards behind that line, even though they weren't very good. Wide receiver Nathaniel Dell, who had over 1,300 yards receiving, he will be back. And it's the Dana Holgorsen offense. We know a Dana Holgorsen offense is going to be good. They just always are. And they're able to scheme around their weaknesses. And I think he'll do that again. But when you think at Holgorsen, you think of offense, but Houston also had a very good defense in 2021. And that defense returns 10 seniors on that side of the ball this year on a defense that gave up only 21 points a game and less than 300 yards a game. So I expect them to take another step forward and be even better this year. As far as getting into the playoff, you look at their schedule. They start the season off at UTSA. We all know UTSA finished with a very good record as well last season. That's going to be a tough game because it's on the road, and UTSA is probably going to be good again. And then they go to Texas Tech this year. Last year, Texas Tech came to Houston. They go to Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech has a new coach. So I think this year Houston can beat Texas Tech. But it's not going to be an easy game. And then they do have Kansas at home, and I know you might laugh at that because it's Kansas, but Kansas is a Power 5 school, and Kansas is getting better. Lance Leopold's doing a really good job with the Jayhawks, and I think they're going to be a much improved team in 2022. So that's not going to be a gimme game for Houston. But if they can get through those 3 games, I think they go undefeated the rest of the way. And I think they do have a legit shot to get in the playoff, but they will have to go undefeated to do it. And if they can win those 3 games right there I just mentioned, I think they have a good shot to get in, but they're going to need some help. Now let's look at BYU. Now BYU is an independent, but they're not in a Power 5 conference, so I include them on this list. BYU finished the 2021 season 10-3, a good season for Coach Kalani Sitake and his group. And they went 5-0 against Pac-12 competition last year. So can they do that again against Power 5 competition this year? They don't have as many Pac-12 teams on their schedule, though. And we'll get to that in a minute. They did lose star running back Tyler Algier, who ran for over 2,700 yards in 2 seasons. He moved on, is trying his hand at the NFL. But they returned most of their other star offensive skill players. They returned the quarterback Jaron Hall, who threw for 2,583 yards, 20 touchdowns on 64% completion percentage. He also ran for 307 yards and 3 touchdowns and averaged nearly 5 yards a carry on the ground. And they also returned a lot of starters on defense. Now, they did struggle with injury last year, especially on the defensive side. A lot of guys get injured. If they can stay healthy on defense, and also quarterback Jaron Hall had some injuries. If they can stay healthy at the quarterback position and on the defensive side of the ball, I think BYU is going to have another really good season under Coach Kalani Sitake. And they could have their third 10-win season in a row potentially. But it's not going to be easy. Their schedule is absolutely brutal. When you look at their schedule, they play 5 games against Power 5 competition and 2 other games against good non-Power 5 competition. Here's the 7 toughest games on their schedule. They play at home against Baylor, which in my opinion will be a loss. They go on the road to Oregon, which in my opinion will be another loss. They play at home against Notre Dame, which I think will be a loss. At home against Arkansas, which I think will be a loss. They go to Boise State, which I think will be a win, but not an easy win. Boise State should be a good team this year. They go to Stanford, which I think they win. And then they're at home against Utah State, which Utah State won the Mountain West Conference last year, so that's not going to be an easy game either. So there's 7 games right there that BYU could potentially lose this season. Now, I don't think they lose them all, but I just don't. With that brutal schedule, I do not see how BYU gets in the playoff. I think their schedule is just too hard, and they're going to lose 2 or 3 of those games, if not more. But I still think they will have a good season, a winning season. But I don't see them getting to that 10-win mark again. Now, last on the list is a team that you may not expect, but I like this team going into 2022, and that's the Air Force Academy. Air Force finished 10-3 in 2021, finished second place in the Mountain West Mountain Division. And they're not losing a lot of guys off that team. They were surprisingly good last year, surprised a lot of people. And most of those guys are coming back. The quarterback Kazik Daniels will be back, running back DeAndre Hughes, wide receiver Micah Davis, 4 starters off the offensive line, and they returned 7 starters on a defense that finished 13th nationally in total defense in 2021. 7 of those guys are back. So I expect Air Force to not only be as good as last year, but potentially take a massive step forward. And when you look at their schedule, they only have one Power 5 team on their schedule, and that's Colorado. So that's a very winnable game for Air Force. Now, they have some other tough games. They do have conference games against Boise State, San Diego State, and Utah State, 3 good football teams. But all those games are winnable, though. If they can win all 3 of those games and beat Colorado, I think they go undefeated. Even if they go undefeated, though, I do not think their schedule is going to be tough enough to get them in the college football playoff. I just don't think wins over those teams that I listed are going to get them in. Last year when Cincinnati got in, they had beaten Notre Dame at home, and Notre Dame was a top 10 team. There's no top 10 teams on this schedule for Air Force. I do expect Air Force to have a really good year, but I just don't see even an undefeated Air Force team is not getting in the CFP. So now, do I think any of these teams can get in the CFP? Houston has the best chance, in my opinion, but it's going to require them to go undefeated. But that is doable. If they can beat Texas Tech, if they can beat Kansas, and if they can beat UTSA, plus win all their conference games, I think they have a legit shot. Now, they're going to have some help, and they're going to have some 2-loss Power 5 teams around them. But Houston, in my opinion, has the best chance to get in. I think BYU may be the best team of this group. If all 4 of these teams played head-to-head, I think BYU would be the best team. But BYU has such a tough schedule, they're just not going to be able to win enough games to get in my opinion. Let me know in the comment section, do you think any of these teams have a legit chance to get in the college football playoff in 2022? Or is there a team I left off this list that you think I should include? Let me know in the comment section. Can you make a case for a Boise State or a Utah State or somebody, or a San Diego State or somebody else to get in? I want to hear it in the comments. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please check out the links in the description box. Go to Amazon and get all your college football memorabilia, college sports memorabilia. Use that link. It'll help me out my channel. Buy your favorite team gear at Fanatics. Use the link in the description box. That'll help my channel. None of that costs you any more money. All it does is get you into the website. If you got to make a purchase anyway, might as well help me out in the process. Also, if you like to bet on March Madness or NBA or anything else, use the BetUS link in the description box. That'll get you into the website. That'll also help me out. I appreciate you tuning in to this show. And as always, Q Country Roads.